Hey everybody, it's Catherine. How you doing? Happy Memorial Day weekend to those of you who celebrate here in the US. Very exciting. I am having a member vault sale. So my resource hub where I have all my online programs and my DNA activation offering. I have been selling at sale prices my online programs and Sacred DNA activation this weekend, and also one of my content creation brainstorming sessions, VIP sessions that I sell. And I have managed to raise close to $800 at this point for local El Dorado County Veterans Services, giving back to those who serve, who have served, the families of those who serve. And it's been amazing to have so many people in my healing community come out and get something really nice for themselves, but also do something really nice for someone this weekend. So I want to thank everyone who's made purchases. And I will put the link down below here, but this sale is active through Monday, I think 2 or 3 p.m. So you can check that out. And I wanted to talk about something real quick because I'm seeing this so often. And as someone who's been doing healing work for a long time and does, not just energy healing, but does mindset too, understanding that there's a balance between the heart and the mind, we are healing into wholeness. We are becoming wholesome. And that means that you can't leave parts of you out of the healing process at this point. Everything is integrated. And I see, and it's actually kind of the reason why I left some of the groups that I was in. I see this happening a lot where there are people wanting to activate their energy and do tons of energy activations and lots of energy healing and doing the release, but then not following up with actualizing the energy of the activation. And that means that when you have an activation, an energy activation, or any kind of energy healing, a release, an upgrade of any kind that kind of boosts your frequency or your vibration. And yes, a release does that just as much as an upgrade, okay? Because anytime we release energy, it is an upgrade by default. So anytime we change our frequency or vibration in that way, if we are not taking action on the physical plane, in our everyday human life, here's what happens to that activation. It fades. So a lot of people are scratching their heads right now and wondering, well, I'm doing all these activations. I'm doing these DNA activations. And by the way, if it's not sacred DNA activation with restructuring, which you're removing the seals, the frequency fences from the earth and your DNA, you are just going to come back down again after you do the DNA activation, because the restructuring is what grounds it and actualizes it into the physical. So a lot of you are scratching your heads and you're wondering, well, I'm doing all this activating and it just feels like it's not going anywhere, or it feels like my body is being pushed or pulled, like we feel like sometimes we are stretching in our consciousness in order to take on these energies. And the reason being is because we're not prepping our human suit. We are not appropriately caretaking our human suit, okay? So you can activate up, down, all around, all day long, do activations, energy healings, Reiki healings, whatever it is, whatever fancy new modality is out there. And I'm not trying to be a jerk, I'm trying to make a point. But if you are not actualizing it into the physical, it is fading, it is going away. So some of you are wondering, well, like, I just did this activation, but I don't feel any different. I felt really different for a little while. That's because you did the activation and you did feel really different for a while and you felt the wonderful benefits and the result of this activation. But you didn't take any action in the physical plane to follow that up. You didn't actualize it. You didn't ground it into your physical experience. So it fades, it goes away. And so what's happening is with these activations, you are ascending your consciousness. But if you're not taking action on the physical plane, you are coming back down. And this is why. Because here's what happens when you do an activation. When you do an activation, it is basically bringing all of your divinity online, okay? Meaning you are just lit up like a Christmas tree. Your crystalline structure is lighting up. The divine in you is truly speaking. It's truly broadcasting. It's emitting, okay? So you are in spirit. So when you are thinking of something that, somebody is talking about taking inspired action, inspired literally means to be in spirit. Inspired action means that you follow up on that energy activation that you just did to boost your immune system by taking care of your human suit, meaning you start eating more superfoods, okay? You stop going back to that constant stress lifestyle that is killing your immune system, that is basically shutting it down systematically and progressively deteriorating it every day. This is the action that we must follow up on. So you can be activating all over the place. Every cosmic ascension code that you want to bring in, go ahead and bring it in. But if you are not actualizing it, you are not taking some sort of physical action on it, you in your human suit here on this physical plane, it's going to go away. It's going to fade. And so there's a couple different ways to start, actualizing this or thinking about actualization. So, for instance, like I just mentioned, sacred DNA activation, perfect example. There are a million DNA activations out there. And those of us who are healers that offer DNA activations, it's not that we aren't administering a DNA activation. But if you're not taking action to physically ground that and bring it into all the structures of the body, that DNA activation will only affect you on the ethereal. It doesn't do anything for you on the physical. That's why DNA activation restructuring is so amazing. And you should jump on this deal because it's on sale this weekend. This is not something I put on sale very often, hardly ever, because it's well worth the price as is. But if you're doing something like let's just say, I mentioned the example of the immune boosting, okay? That's a perfect example. A lot of people are doing things to work on the ethereal body, basically your spiritual avatar, by doing an energy activation, okay? And when that's happening, think of yourself as having an ethereal blueprint, okay? You have an etheric field where you have a blueprint of who you are, and you can actually tangibly work with this field and change your blueprint of who you are. This is one of the things that I teach in Mother DNA activation. But that ethereal imprint of you gets affected when you do any kind of energy activation, energy healing, energy release, energy upgrade, okay? In order to bring that healing into the physical, you must take some sort of physical action. You have to follow up with it. That's why it's really skewed with people who are believing that there's some sort of difference or some sort of separation between your spiritual awakening process and your human awakening process. They are one and the same. They can't exist without the other. One complements the other. They are two sides of the same coin, okay? So if you're having, like, let's just say an immune boost or something, someone is doing some energy upgrading on the systems of your body, say your digestive tract, okay? But if you're not following that up with eating good, nutritious foods and managing your stress levels, that activation is gone. You just blew money away, okay? Same thing is true for sacred DNA activation. The restructuring is what grounds it in the physical. That way you don't ever have to do a DNA activation again, because we bring it into all the physical structures of the body, okay? So a lot of people do DNA activations and they do them over and over and over again. Well, the initial ascension, the upgrade is happening, but eventually you get forced back down because you're not bringing this into the physical body. Another thing, people who are working on their wealth, abundance and financial prosperity. Okay, so they do a wealth frequency upgrade and they get a bunch of activations that help them to, clear some beliefs, maybe clear in their ancestral karma, things that they've been holding on to that are keeping them aligned with lack or limitation. Okay, great. That activation, I'm sure, works amazing for you and you feel great and you feel optimistic, and maybe you even have something happen right after that, like you make a sale in your business or you get a surprise check in the mail. But if you're not following up with thinking thoughts that are aligned with this new frequency, with feeling feelings that are aligned with this new frequency, with taking actions on the daily level of acting as if you are wealthy and prosperous and happy and abundant, you are not grounding that activation and you don't get to keep it. You don't get to keep it. So that money you spent on that activation or getting that upgrade, that release, whatever, you're not keeping it. And you just basically wasted some money. So we need to start thinking about anything that we do in the ethereal has to be mirrored down in the physical. It has to. because the upgrades, the frequency fluctuations, they are so much more intense now. They are so much more felt by all of us, especially those who are at the very beginning of our awakening process. We're like, what is going on? Anything in my life that seemed even remotely familiar before is being, upturned, crazy. I don't understand my life. I'm very confused. I don't know what's going on. I feel different. I don't sleep. These waves of energy are very intense. And the only way to really filter them into the body in a way that's more comfortable is we have to ground more of it. So we have to figure out how to actualize more of our spiritual potential, our divinity, into the physical. Okay? So I beg you to start thinking about, whenever you are going to be considering a healing, coaching, mentoring, whatever, if there isn't an integrative approach to that, you might feel the fallout of that. You might be experiencing some big upgrades, a frequency up level at first, but then it won't continue. It won't be grounded in the physical body. So look for someone who integrates both. Look for someone who's integrating the spiritual and the physical together. A lot of the I'm not going to say that, but let me just put it this way. Some of the groups that I left, or some of the groups that I was involved in for a little bit, I just started seeing, so much talk, so much investment in just the energy activation part of doing a healing or a release or an upgrade process to try to, live a better life, be a happier person, whatever, have more money, without talking about or continuing that conversation, following it up with, okay, well then how do we ground this in the physical? What do I need to start thinking and feeling and doing to bring this into my physical body? And I started seeing something that, we call in this community, we call it spiritual bypassing. When we just kind of neglect our humanness on our quest to attain more spiritual enlightenment, okay? This is a real problem for some of us who are not really aware that it's always about wholeness. It's always about integration. The only way we can become wholesome is if we bring all spheres, all aspects, all complementary parts of who we are into an interplay with each other. This is how we ascend. We can't leave any parts of us out at this point. And so I would constantly see all this stuff that was just very one-sided. Well, you just have to do energy activation. And there's the other side of it too, where people are just focused on mindset and not the fact that they might have ancestral karma or things that are lingering in their energy, in their DNA, that are keeping them stuck and in limitation. It has to be an integrative approach. That's the way I work at this point. I don't work in any other way with people other than in a fully integrative way. It has to be the spiritual with the physical, always. These energies have to complement and role play with each other. And we have to figure out, like, okay, well, if I'm doing this healing process, what am I leaving out? Where am I not bringing this into the physical? Where am I not bringing this into total balance with myself? And I almost get angry, and I don't like to get angry, but sometimes I get angry when I see coaches out there who are not talking about the importance of balancing these aspects of self. I get upset when I see new people coming into their awakening process and are getting coached by these people that it's just all about energy activating and not bringing it into the physical, because what is happening, it can be really irresponsible for those healers that are not teaching the balance and the integration, because those people that they're coaching or mentoring or activating are putting them at risk for going into spiritual, physical, emotional, or mental crisis, okay? The energies are too big at this point to just play around with these energies and just kind of be cavalier about what we're playing with here. There needs to be a lot more accountability and responsibility for those of us who are doing healing work and sharing our work with others. We have to be able to understand. If we don't understand it as healers, we need to get to a place where we can understand it, that the physical and the spiritual have to be matched. They have to be equal. They have to balance and complement each other. Because otherwise you're not talking about holistic healing, and what you're actually talking about is something that can put people into spiritual, mental, emotional, or physical crisis. We don't want that. We are working with people who need great healing as it is. Let's not muck up the waters so that we have to do even more healing. It's like And I've actually, to be quite honest, I've had some people come to me who have had that happen. They went through a healing process with someone, and it wasn't balanced. It wasn't a balanced healing process. So it kind of reminds me, and they came to me so that we could kind of put everything, that helter-skelter, back into balance again. Sacred DNA activation and restructuring is amazing at doing that. But it's kind of reminding me of like when you go and you get your hair done and you get a color, and then they blow dry it, they style it for you, and then it looks like crap. And then you're like, oh no, yeah, this is great. And then you have to go to your old hairdresser to go and fix the hair color and get a whole redo. That's what it kind of reminds me of, yet on a spiritual level. And I'm joking around, but it's actually kind of serious. And we have to take this into more account. And we need to be responsible for that, because all of us who are healers, we are on a healing path too. And we have to take responsibility for this in our lives first and make sure we are balanced, not only in how we offer our healing, but how we are on our own healing path ourselves. And so what I teach, the only thing that I share with people at this point is a fully integrative approach. Like, it has to be a total balance. So when you work with me, and especially with things like sacred DNA activation and restructuring, because the DNA activation is your ethereal, your spiritual activation, but we bring it into the physical structures of the body. It's a complete restructuring of all the systems and structures in the body down to the cellular level, down to the DNA. So that's one way of being able to bring a healing process into total balance for you. And it is being offered on sale through this weekend, and 20% of all profits go to benefit El Dorado County Veterans Services in honor of Memorial Day. And the other way is to get in on my signature program, which is also at a sale price through Monday. This is all about bringing new consciousness mechanics into play, where we literally start thinking, rewiring a different mind. Okay, we start thinking with a different mind because we are rewiring actively a different mind. We are expanding the frontiers of mind. We are working with the quantum field of mind, but we are actualizing into the physical. It's one thing to do all kinds of brain upgrades. There's all kinds of activations for the brain and spheres of the brain, and for serotonin and dopamine, and to activate those chemicals in the brain. And that's all good. But we need to physically evolve the brain. And we do that through wiring the brain with different thoughts, opening up new neural pathways to have different ideas, different beliefs. And when we do that, the body changes, everything changes. But the frontier of mind gets expanded. And you can't do this without actualizing this in the physical. You can't experience this rewiring and this brain upgrade, or even a dopamine boost, energy activation, if you're going back to the same old coping mechanisms that have kept you in lack and limitation for a lifetime. You can't have it both ways. So many of us are on this quest to become this new person, but you cannot be this new person while you are still holding on to the old one. And actualizing these changes into the physical is what gives the body, the brain, and the universe the signal, the broadcast that says, I am this now. I am different. Because all parts of you are in balance as this new person. You are broadcasting a coherent signal. So most of us who are really trying to change and we're transforming, we understand kind of in a way what it takes to do that, and how big that is, what a colossal undertaking that can be to transform your whole life. And we think we're doing all the right things, but we're still thinking the way that we have before. We're still going back to the same behaviors that we had before. We're not broadcasting a coherent signal of this new person we're desiring to be. It has to be an actualization. You do all the spiritual activations in the world, but if you're not grounding it into the physical, it doesn't matter. It will fade. All these great activations you're paying for will fade. So I'm off my soapbox. I hope you guys have a beautiful weekend. I'm going to put the link for my Memorial Week sale down here in the links, in the comment link. The signature program is on sale. It is an online program. It's self-study. However, I am teaching the live course at this time, so you get the extra benefit of the private Facebook group member community. for extra support and getting your questions answered and guidance in that group. That's $150 off the full price, $75 off the payment plan. I think those are the prices. And then the Sacred DNA Activation and Restructuring. There couldn't be a better time for you to do this. The 12-strand activation is $50 off, and the 24-strand activation is $75 off. So I'm going to put the link down below. I want to wish you guys so much love and peace, and have a great weekend. And I'll see you tomorrow here on this page for the weekly energy update at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. Bye.